This woman is so cruel. She mounted her subject's head on a dog, took him to the edge of a cliff, then took out a gun and put it against his head. This is what happens to scum who cheat on women, but do not rush to pity him. Although the man is a kindergarten teacher, seems harmless enough. In fact, he's a kidnapper of children. Each time, he asks parents for a high ransom. After getting the money, he didn't release them. Instead, he has to record the process of brutalizing children. It's like killing the heart. And such an angry killer has not been brought to justice because he happened to meet this girl who was only 18 years old. She was pregnant and a mother. She couldn't afford to raise the child. She had to ask her teacher to help her adopt. This chest hair monster in front of her immediately seized the opportunity. I can help with the adoption, but there was a deal to be made. That is, let Kim instead of the teacher to turn himself into jail. In order not to be suspected, she had to recreate the crime scene, how she tied up the child. But when it came time to commit the murder, Kim forgot what color the pillow was. Luckily, someone in the shadows reminded her. She stroked the brown strap. Kim immediately understood. The murder was completed without a hitch. She put on such a good show, just to give her kid a good home. And that's how Kim was sentenced to 13 years in prison. Before she went to prison, she looked up and saw the real prisoner. She was cheering Kim on, but she never thought that the teacher would not keep her promise. She sold Kim's daughter abroad at a high price. Isn't this a scapegoat for nothing? Kim was duped, so she made up her mind. The first thing she did after her release from prison was to seek revenge on the teacher. Kim immediately arranged for a woman to live with the teacher. Soon the other party could not resist the temptation. Directly put the person down. Do not even eat first to clean up the table. Net do things that the audience does not want to see. In this way you can drug the meal to stun each other. Of course, Kim will not kill people so easily. Just grab the scissors to vent, because the real revenge is now officially started. This is a woman to be feared, not because she can untie a man's crotch. A refresher course in biology. It's the fact that no man who meets her ends up in a bad way. Kim weeps. The reason she was so angry, she pointed her gun at the man in front of her. In fact, it was to take revenge. She put the phone pendant in front of the man. There are 5 toys on it, corresponding to 5 human lives. It turns out that the man used to be a teacher. He was a teacher who kidnapped students to commit inhumane murders. After each case, he immediately transferred to another school and ran away. Very cunning, so no one would suspect him at all. Now the teacher is in Kim's hands. The only thing that awaits him is torture. To be held down on the ground, choked and suffocated by the neck, and then dragged by his tie until he passes out. Kicking and kicking with high heels. Lifting him up when he doesn't respond. Take a gun to the toe to make people wake up in pain. That's not enough. Then we'll do another one. Just by doing this, Kim wasn't satisfied. She gathered all the parents of the murdered children. They watched the tape of the murder. Some screamed in anger. Some cried in anger. People were so angry. They wanted to catch the murderer and cut him to pieces. The sound of sorrow pierced Kim's eardrums. That was the effect she wanted to achieve. Now that the murderer has been arrested by Kim, the family could take revenge to their heart's content. So they began to discuss, how should we torture the prisoner?
무슨 하나씩 해. 짜도록 한꺼번에 해버리지. 각자 하고 싶은 대로 합시다. 가지고 꼭 통일할 필요 있나?
한꺼번에 하는 거 너무 쉬운 것 같아요.
And so the group discusses the plan to kill the pig, and threw the microphone to the loudspeaker next door. The whole thing was played back to the killer. It was a very effective psychological blow. It scared people out of their wits. Then the family members grabbed all kinds of murder weapons, put on raincoats and entered the room one by one to take revenge. These 9 people are discussing how to use the kitchen knife to make this man's life miserable, because he's a criminal who specializes in killing children. Now that he's been caught, the family chose to take revenge for their child. They learned how to hold the knife before they did it. Scared next to the criminal kept begging and saying sorry. The parents were even more furious. At that time, her child was crying for help but did not see the prisoner's soft-hearted ah. Shortly afterwards, she entered with a white knife and left with a red knife covered in blood out the door. But don't worry, everyone. The prisoner was injected with a tranquilizer. He won't die for a while. Can still replace the next person in the torture. So the 4 parents decided to team up to attack, exactly corresponding to the human limbs. This way it is not easy to kill the person. The screams were heard throughout the room. At this point, one parent couldn't sit still. He rushed in with an axe in his hand. Daughter rushed to stop. How can you be so cruel?
우리가 끝이 아니잖아. 동주 할머니 아버지도 계시니까.
The prisoner was numbed by the situation. Others were tortured with a light knife. This guy's direct acts will kill people. When he was done, the man came out on his knees. He still could not relieve his hatred. The thought of his son being tortured to death by the prisoner, and no matter what he did, he could not undo everything. He could only lie on the ground and cry, helpless to the point of trembling without a child. Is there any point in doing this? Then the grandmother got up and walked to the room. She will tell everyone that violence against violence is meaningless, but it is the most gratifying. And then she would bury the scissors deep in her spinal cord, and then she would take the life out of the person. Now all you have to do is pull them out and remove the scissors and let the criminal blood inside the prisoner like a spring gushing out. This revenge finally came to an end. They chose to take pictures not to enjoy the torture, but as proof that all people are guilty. They are both the families of the murdered. They are also a group of partners in crime. All they did was, in order to let their children's souls rest in peace, they even made cakes with the blood of the prisoners in their mouths. In this world, if you want to live in innocence, there is bound to be suffering. I hope we will never understand the complex psychology of violence against violence. That complex psychology. May you and I both be well. See you in the next video.